Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're tackling what is, honestly, the ultimate pain point for IT leadership right now: enterprise tool sprawl and disconnected systems. If you work in tech, you definitely know the feeling. We buy tool after tool, implement platform after platform, and yet, somehow, the big picture just remains completely out of focus. So we're going to demystify exactly how we get from that chaotic fragmentation to true systemic control.
We really have to start right here. Is your digital enterprise disconnected? I ask this because, let's face it, modern digital enterprises absolutely do not operate as single, unified environments anymore. We're juggling cloud adoption, edge computing, massive automation, and just countless, constantly evolving data sources. Because of this massive expansion, we run into huge coherence challenges. The pieces are all there, right? But they just aren't speaking the same language.
And that leads us to a pretty harsh reality. You see, the core challenge we're facing today isn't about implementation anymore. We all know how to turn a system on. The real challenge is coherence. When you have fragmented tools and systems, it inevitably creates major blind spots and operational risk. Without a unifying structure, organizations experience this dangerous disconnect between all of their technical activity and the actual business value they're supposed to be generating.
Okay, here is our architectural roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to start with the fragmentation problem, and then we'll build out our solution layer by layer. We'll look at the intelligence layer, the operational backbone, and governance before finally wrapping up with how we turn visibility into value and achieve continuous assurance.
So, diving into our first section on the fragmentation problem, think about the daily reality for CIOs and CISOs dealing with these disjointed tech environments. It's essentially operating in the dark. You're just kind of hoping your defenses and workflows are aligned with your larger business goals, but you never really know for sure. Well, enter the solution. We call it the three-layer digital value stack. This is basically an architectural blueprint, and it's designed specifically to transform those disconnected capabilities into coordinated systemic control. It organizes the digital enterprise into three distinct but highly interdependent layers. So instead of treating every single tool like its own isolated island, this stack creates one unified ecosystem.
All right, let's move on to the first layer, the intelligence foundation, which covers your discovery and AI systems. We're going to start building our digital house right here from the ground up. Because, as we all know, you can't manage what you can't see. This is where the journey to systemic control has to start.
So, what exactly is this intelligence foundation? Basically, it's made up of discovery and AI-driven systems. Think of platforms like Armis and Anthropic. Their main job is to generate continuous, real-time visibility into the entire digital environment. This base layer directly tackles that persistent gap of incomplete awareness. If you don't have this foundation in place, the higher-level systems are quite literally just guessing. Let's break down exactly what this layer is doing. First off, it identifies your managed and unmanaged assets. That is absolutely crucial when we're dealing with IoT and operational technology. It also constantly monitors behavior, detects anomalies the second they happen, and surfaces real-time vulnerabilities. By shining a light on unmanaged devices and pulling these vulnerabilities out of the shadows, this layer eliminates uncertainty at the very lowest technical levels. The big takeaway here is that this foundational layer shifts the enterprise completely away from operating on assumptions. Instead, you're now relying on continuously updated operational evidence. Now, to be clear, this layer isn't making the big governance decisions. Its job is purely to provide the reliable, high-fidelity intelligence that makes those big decisions possible.
Okay, with our foundation poured and our evidence gathered, we're moving up to layer 2. This is the operational backbone, or the workflow systems. Think of this as the load-bearing plumbing and electrical work of our enterprise house.
This operational backbone is made up of your workflow platforms, systems you're probably very familiar with, like ServiceNow, Salesforce, and Atlassian. The whole point of this layer is to consume the data from our intelligence foundation and transform that raw information into structured, actionable processes. This right here is the ultimate integration point for the enterprise. It's where your policies and controls actually become executable. It's super interesting to see how this transformation actually plays out. This layer ingests all that foundation data, but it doesn't just let it sit there. It connects the data to specific services, enforces your controls, and captures operational data at massive scale. So a raw technical signal, like say a server suddenly becoming vulnerable, becomes instantly tied to an actual managed incident in a prioritized workflow. The contrast here is just night and day. Without this backbone, you're stuck with ad hoc technical responses. Basically, people just reacting to alerts in a total panic. But with this layer in place, you get repeatable, managed processes. It brings consistency and scalability, transforming chaotic, isolated reactions into fully traceable actions that the entire enterprise can rely on. Moving right along, we arrive at the third layer, the governance overlay, or the digital value management system. We finally reach the roof. This is the architectural blueprint that gives the entire house its purpose and direction.
We call this overlay the Digital Value Management System, or DVMS. And it's really vital to understand that a DVMS is not just another software platform or some tool you buy off a shelf. It is a comprehensive management system. It establishes exactly how digital operations are structured, how they're measured, and most importantly, how they align with actual business value. It dictates what matters and how we evaluate success.
The DVMS is doing some incredible heavy lifting for us here. It establishes your value streams, defines performance objectives, sets up your policies and control frameworks, and ultimately gives actual meaning to all the data generated beneath it. It doesn't collect raw data itself, right? It relies entirely on the structured info flowing up from those workflow systems we just talked about. And it uses that information to connect high-level strategy directly to your daily, boots-on-the-ground execution.
This represents a massive paradigm shift. When you look through the DVMS lens, enterprise leadership isn't evaluating performance based on isolated technical metrics anymore, like how many patches got applied this week or how many pings failed. Who cares, right? Instead, they're looking at true indicators of business outcomes. They're evaluating actual business results, risk impact, and overall corporate resilience. It's exactly how you bridge the gap between IT and the boardroom.
All right, let's explore how we actually turn this visibility into value by looking at the upward flow of data. We've got our 3 layers built, but how do they actually talk to each other to create a living, breathing feedback loop? Well, here is how that crucial upward flow works across the stack. Step 1, discovery at the foundation generates raw insights and detects risk. Step 2, workflows in the backbone add context to that data, linking it to your services and operational processes. And step 3, the DVMS at the top evaluates that structured information against value delivery and resilience. So those raw signals move up, gain operational context, and eventually translate into pure strategic value at the very top.
Honestly, this upward flow is the magic of the whole stack. It transforms raw signals into actionable intelligence and ultimately into strategic insight. It beautifully illustrates how visibility at the lowest, grittiest technical levels directly informs overarching governance at the highest levels. Your decisions are finally based on irrefutable evidence rather than just guesswork.
Let's round this out with our final concept, accountability and continuous assurance. We've built the stack, we've established the data flow, but how on earth do we sustain it? Well, this perfectly stacked structure completely changes how we handle risk and enterprise accountability over the long haul. By defining very distinct roles for each layer, we create incredible clarity. Governance is strictly responsible for evaluation, workflows handle execution, and intelligence focuses on detection. By separating these responsibilities, we create an unbreakable chain of traceability. If an issue pops up, it can be seamlessly tracked from the initial detection right through the workflow response all the way up to leadership evaluation. Continuous assurance isn't just an exhausting annual audit anymore. It becomes a built-in, daily capability of your entire system. Stepping back to look at the complete stack, we can really appreciate what this model accomplishes. Notice how it doesn't try to naively eliminate complexity. Modern business is complex, for sure, and pretending otherwise is just foolish. Instead, the digital value stack takes that complexity and organizes it into a cohesive, continuously improving system. It intentionally separates intelligence, execution, and governance so you can see clearly, act consistently, and measure effectively. So as you look at your own enterprise architecture today, I want you to ask yourself one final, pretty provocative question. Are you just managing complexity and fighting fragmentation day after day? Or are you finally ready to structure your operations, align your technology, and build a true digital value management system that delivers sustained business value? The blueprint is right here in front of you. The next step is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.